You sit down, you look at the menu, and you think you are making a choice. But in a lot of restaurants, the choice was already made for you before you ever picked up that menu. The layout, the wording, the lighting, the way the server asks the question. All of it is designed with one goal: get you to spend more than you planned. I want to be clear, this is not a scandal. Restaurants are businesses, and there is nothing illegal about smart menu design or a well-trained staff. But as a customer, you are allowed to know how this works, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And I will tell you, item number 7 on this list is one I used to fall for every single time. Once I understood what was actually happening, I started saving money on almost every restaurant visit without even trying that hard. If this kind of practical consumer awareness is useful to you, hit subscribe. We cover this stuff every week. Now, let us get into it. Item number 1, the menu price anchor. This one starts before you even think about what you want. Most restaurant menus are not just lists of food, they are design tools. And one of the oldest tricks in that toolbox is called price anchoring. The idea is simple. Put 1 or 2 very expensive items at the top or in a prominent spot on the menu. Not because the restaurant expects everyone to order them, but because those prices make everything else look reasonable by comparison. You see a steak for $42, and suddenly the pasta dish at $26 does not feel that expensive. It feels like the sensible choice. The anchor item did its job. When I started paying attention to this, I noticed it on almost every sit-down menu I picked up. The most expensive items are often placed where your eye lands first, top right, inside a box, or highlighted in a special section. The goal is to reset what your brain considers normal pricing. The practical move here is simple. Before you settle on anything, scan the full menu from bottom to top, not just the items that catch your eye first. Look at the price range on the lower end. You may find that the item you actually want is sitting in the middle or near the bottom, and it looks like a much better deal once you ignore the anchor. Compare the full menu, not just the items that grabbed your attention first. Item number 2. Dollar signs are missing for a reason. This one is quiet, but it matters. A lot of upscale and mid-range restaurants have moved toward menus that list prices without the dollar sign. Instead of $18, you see 18. Instead of $34, you see 34. It looks clean and minimal, but there is research behind it. Studies on menu psychology have found that when the dollar sign is removed, people tend to spend more. The dollar sign is a mental trigger. It connects the number to money leaving your wallet. Take it away, and the number starts to feel more abstract, more like a score on a game than a real cost. I noticed this myself at a newer restaurant that had a very sleek, text-heavy menu. Everything felt casual and approachable. But when I added up what we ordered, the total surprised me. The prices were not hidden. They were right there. But without the dollar sign, I had not processed them the same way. The practical move is to mentally add the dollar sign back whenever you see a menu that has dropped it. Say the price out loud in your head as an actual dollar amount. It sounds simple, but it genuinely reconnects the number to what it costs. Do not let clean design disconnect you from the actual spending. Item number 3, the combo upgrade nudge. This one happens fast, usually right after you order. You order a sandwich or a burger, and the server or the counter person says, almost immediately, "Would you like to make that a combo?" Or, "Do you want to add fries and a drink for just a few dollars more?" It sounds like a good deal, and sometimes it actually is. But here is what often happens. The base item you ordered was reasonably priced. The combo upgrade adds a drink and a side for what sounds like a small amount, say $3 or $4. What the framing hides is that the drink and the side you are adding might only have a marginal cost to the restaurant, and you are paying a premium for the convenience of the bundle. On top of that, the combo often locks you into a medium or large size automatically. You did not ask for a large soda. But that is what came with the combo. I used to say yes to the combo almost every time because the math sounded right in the moment. Then I started thinking about it differently. If I was not going to order a large soda and a side on their own, why was I adding them just because they came as a package? The practical move is to pause before agreeing to the upgrade. Ask yourself if you actually want those items. If you only want the main item, say no to the combo. You will spend less and probably eat less of something you did not actually want in the first place. Only upgrade if you genuinely wanted those items anyway. Item number 4. The suggestive upsell script. Servers at many chain restaurants and even independent spots are trained in something called suggestive selling. It sounds straightforward, but the details are worth knowing. When a server says, "Can I start you off with some appetizers tonight?" or "Have you tried the loaded fries? They are amazing." That is not just friendliness. That is a scripted upsell. Servers at many establishments are trained to mention specific high-margin items, to describe them in appealing language, and to time the suggestion so that it lands before you have fully settled into what you actually want. The items they push are usually not the cheapest things on the menu. They are often the items with the best profit margin, or the items the restaurant is trying to move. The way it is framed makes it feel like a personal recommendation from someone who works there, and it can be, but it is also part of a system. This is not about being cold to your server. Servers work hard, and a lot of them genuinely do like the food they recommend. The point is just to know that the suggestion did not come from nowhere. The practical move is simple. Decide on drinks and appetizers before you sit down or before the server comes over. Have a general idea of what you want before anyone makes a suggestion. You can still take recommendations, but you will be doing it on your terms, not as a reaction to a trained prompt. Make the decision before the suggestion arrives. Item number 5. The drink margin game. This one adds up fast, and most people never think about it. Beverages are one of the highest margin items in any restaurant. A fountain soda that costs a restaurant pennies per serving gets charged at $3 or $4. A glass of lemonade that is mostly water and sugar syrup is $5 or $6 at some places. Specialty cocktails, premium juices, and bottled water all carry markups that most other menu items cannot match. This is where restaurants make a significant portion of their profit, and it is also where customer spending adds up without much thought. You order a drink when you sit down, maybe another with your meal, and suddenly the beverages alone have added $15 to $20 to the table before the entrees are even counted. I started noticing this when I looked at receipts more carefully. The food portion of the bill was reasonable, but the drinks had quietly added 30% or more to the total. The practical move is to decide on drinks before you sit down. Tap water costs nothing and is always available. If you want a drink, one non-alcoholic beverage is usually enough. If you are at a place where alcohol is part of the experience, that is a personal choice. But knowing the margin helps you decide intentionally rather than automatically. Beverages are where the bill climbs faster than most people expect. Item number 6. Menu descriptions that sell you on price. The words on a menu are not just descriptions, they are sales copy. When a menu says something is handcrafted, locally sourced, slow roasted, or house-made, it signals quality. That signal often comes with a price attached. The description makes the higher cost feel justified because you are getting something special, something worth paying more for. Research on menu psychology has found that descriptive language can meaningfully increase how much people are willing to pay for a dish, even when the underlying food is similar to a simpler item. The word crispy instead of fried, nestled instead of served with, or artisan instead of a brand name, these choices are deliberate. I'm not saying the food is bad or that those descriptions are always false, but it is worth noticing that a chicken sandwich described in 3 lines of evocative language is priced differently from the same kind of sandwich described in plain terms 2 pages earlier on the same menu. The practical move is to read past the adjectives and focus on the actual ingredients. Compare items by what is in them, not by how they are described. Sometimes the simpler sounding option is nearly identical and priced noticeably lower. Read the ingredients, not the story around them. Item number 7, the automatic gratuity. You may not have noticed. This is the one I mentioned at the top. This used to catch me off guard more than once. Many restaurants, especially busier spots, tourist areas, and chain restaurants with large tables, add an automatic gratuity to the bill. It is usually labeled something like service charge, auto gratuity, or suggested gratuity included. The amount is often 18 or 20%, and it is built into the total before you even pick up the check. The problem is not that the charge exists. The problem is that a lot of people do not notice it, and then they add a second tip on top of the auto gratuity. They see the line that says tip on the credit card screen or receipt, and they fill it in out of habit. Now, they have tipped 35 or 40% total without meaning to. I did this. I am not embarrassed to say it because I think a lot of people have done it. The auto gratuity is buried in the line items, and the tip prompt at the card machine does not always tell you that gratuity was already charged. The practical move is to check your bill for the words service charge, gratuity, or auto-grate before you tip. If there is already a gratuity on the bill, you do not need to add another one unless you choose to. If the service was exceptional and you want to leave more, that is your call. But make it a choice, not an accident. Always check the bill before you tip. Item number 8. Limited time items that create urgency. This one is more about how you feel when you order than about the item itself. Restaurants introduce limited time menu items regularly. The McRib comes back. The pumpkin spiced whatever appears in the fall. The seasonal pasta, the holiday burger, the special that is only available through the end of the month. These items are intentionally framed around scarcity and urgency. The message is, if you want this, you have to get it now. Scarcity is one of the oldest and most effective persuasion triggers. When something feels limited, people place higher value on it. They are more willing to pay, more likely to order it without comparing, and more likely to add it to an order they were already making. A lot of these limited time items are not necessarily better than the regular menu. They are priced at or above the standard menu items. But the framing makes them feel special, and special things feel worth paying for. I noticed I used to order seasonal items almost automatically. Then I started asking myself the honest question, would I still order this if it was on the regular menu year-round? Sometimes yes, often no. The practical move is to evaluate the limited item the same way you would any other item. Compare the price, compare the ingredients, and ask whether you actually want it or whether the urgency is doing the work for you. Scarcity is a feeling. The price is real. Item number 9, the side dish trap. This one hides in plain sight on almost every restaurant menu. A lot of entrees at sit-down restaurants come with 1 or 2 sides included, but the menu is often laid out so that the sides are presented separately in a different section with their own descriptions and prices. The framing makes it easy to order a side without realizing you are paying twice for something that was already included, or without noticing that you are adding $3 to $8 per person for something you did not need. At some places, especially fast casual spots, nothing comes with the entree at all. You are building your plate from scratch. Each component, the grain, the protein, the sauce, the topping, has a small individual price. But those prices add up to a total that can quietly exceed what you would have paid for a full meal somewhere else. I started looking at the full cost of what I was building at one popular fast casual spot and realized the bowl I was assembling cost about as much as a full sit-down dinner I could have had nearby. The practical move is to read the entree description carefully before ordering sides. Note what comes included. Then decide if any additional sides are worth the extra cost or if you are adding them mostly out of habit. Build the plate on purpose, not on autopilot. Item number 10. Dessert presentation at the table. This one usually happens right after the main course, and the timing is very intentional. In a lot of sit-down restaurants, the server will bring a physical dessert tray or a laminated dessert card to the table while you are still finishing your meal or just setting down your fork. The visual presentation, actual slices of cake, photos of a lava cake or cheesecake, is designed to catch you at the moment when your guard is lowest. You are relaxed, you had a good meal, and something sweet looks appealing. You might not have planned to order dessert. You might already be full. But the combination of a visual display, a warm recommendation from the server, and the natural rhythm of the meal creates a strong moment of temptation. Desserts are extremely high-margin items. A slice of chocolate cake that costs the restaurant $2 to make gets priced at $9 to $12. If even a fraction of tables say yes because of the presentation moment, the revenue adds up significantly. I'm not saying never order dessert. If you want it, that is a perfectly fine decision. The point is to make the decision before the tray arrives, not as a reaction to it. The practical move is to decide before the meal ends whether dessert is on the plan. If you want something sweet, decide what you are willing to spend. If you were not planning on it, it is completely fine to smile, say no thank you, and ask for the check. Decide before the tray appears. Item number 11. bottled water, and premium beverage defaults. This one is short, but it is worth saying plainly. In many restaurants, particularly mid-range and upscale ones, the server will bring water to the table and simply set down bottles. Sparkling or still, sometimes both. They may ask which you prefer. Sometimes they do not ask at all. And at the end of the meal, those bottles appear on the bill at $4 to $7 each. Tap water at a restaurant is free. It is always available. It is filtered in most established restaurants and perfectly fine to drink. But the default behavior in a lot of restaurants is to present bottled water as the normal choice. And most people go along with it without thinking about it, because it feels like what you do. The same principle applies when a server asks what you would like to drink and suggests a few premium options before you have had a chance to think. The default gets set before you set it yourself. The practical move is simple. When you sit down, say, tap water is fine, unless you have a strong preference for something else. If bottles appear at the table automatically, it is fine to ask for tap water instead. You will not offend anyone, and you will not pay for something you did not ask for. Tap water is free. Use it when it is what you actually want. Item number 12, the check presentation and the tip prompt. This is the last one, and it is one that has changed a lot in the last few years. When the bill comes, whether it is a physical check or a tablet screen or a card reader at the table, the way the tip is presented matters. Most digital tip prompts at restaurants now default to showing suggested tip amounts in large, easy-to-tap buttons. The options are often something like 18%, 20%, and 25%. The no tip or custom amount option is usually there, but it is smaller, grayer, or positioned in a way that makes it feel like the awkward choice. The default selection, the option the screen highlights or puts in the center, is typically the middle or highest option. This design is intentional. Behavioral research has shown that when people are given a pre-selected default, they tend to accept it rather than changing it. The tip prompt design is taking advantage of that tendency. Add to this the fact that tip expectations have been creeping upward over the years. What used to be a 15% standard is now presented as the low end, and tip prompts are now appearing at places where tipping was not previously common. Self-serve counters, coffee shops where you pick up at the counter, food trucks with tablet payments. None of this means you should not tip. Tipping is a meaningful part of how service workers are compensated in the American restaurant system. But the decision about how much to tip should be yours, based on the service and what you think is fair, not driven by which button is easiest to tap. The practical move is to pause at the tip screen before tapping. Make a conscious decision. Know the percentage you are comfortable with and find that option. If the restaurant already charged an auto gratuity, check that before adding more. Your tip decision should be a choice, not a default. So, what is the pattern across all 12 of these? Every one of them works best when you are not paying attention. The anchored prices, the removed dollar signs, the combo nudge, the upsell script, the drink margins, the evocative descriptions, the hidden auto gratuity, the limited time urgency, the side dish math, the dessert tray, the bottled water default, the tip prompt design. None of them require deception. They just require that you move through the meal on autopilot. The simple habit that changes most of this is pausing before you decide, not overthinking, not turning dinner into a spreadsheet exercise. Just a small, deliberate moment where you check what you are actually ordering, what you actually want, and what you are actually being charged. Most people leave a restaurant having spent more than they meant to and cannot point to why. They did not make one big bad decision. They made 10 small automatic ones. You do not have to do that. One thing you can do today is simple. Next time you go to a restaurant, before you say yes to anything, the combo, the drink, the upgrade, the appetizer, the dessert, pause for 2 seconds and ask yourself if you were already planning to order that. If the answer is no, that is your cue to think about it for one more second before agreeing. That is not being difficult. That is being a customer. If this was useful to you, please hit like and subscribe. It helps more people find this channel, and it means a lot. I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me one restaurant charge, menu trick, or bill surprise that caught your attention recently. It can be anything. A fee you noticed, an upgrade you regretted, a tip screen that surprised you. Drop it in the comments below. Coming up soon on Better Deal Daily, We are looking at subscription charges that quietly jump in price after the first year. You signed up at one rate, and you are now paying something else entirely. Most people do not catch it until they check the bank statement. That one is coming up soon, so make sure you are subscribed. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp out there.